Chapter 8. Second Lesson, Day 6, Ahsoka Tano. I am sat on the floor, well lying down would be a better way of putting it, trying to figure out this strange puzzle that Anakin has given me. Well, it isn't really a puzzle, more like a miniature version of a planet. The aim is to maintain life on the planet and to act as the Force, guiding the movements and development of the makeshift citizens by pressing buttons and scrolling through the options on a hologram. My head is propped up on a cushion, since the floor is pretty uncomfortable for a person's head, and I have been at this for the past 2 hours. I still haven't managed to create virtual life on this tiny version of a planet and have no idea how to make it. Anakin refuses to help me and is sat on the sofa scrolling through things on his datapad that are obviously to do with the HoloNet. I can hear the porter's voices right now and they're really distracting. The miniature version of a planet is like a ball that sits in the palm of my hand, the exact size of training droid that shoots blaster bolts. It is covered in rocks and dust, and to make any life of any kind I have to do something I just don't know what. Lazily, I flick through the options on the hologram and decide to add an ozone layer, whatever that is. It gives the planet a bluish glow, but I can see that it is quickly fading and I click on something called a magnetic field. The laws of the universe are different for this tiny planet, so I have no idea what I am doing, but the ozone layer stays put and actually brightens up a bit. I arch my eye marks in surprise. You certainly took your time, Anakin comments, not taking his eyes off the datapad. Not everyone knows as much about science and astronomy as you do, I retort, opening up another section of options and scrolling through them. You could have at least taught me a bit about planets before giving me this. Anakin shrugs his shoulders, and as I turn back to the planet in my hand, I notice that there is a holobook on the floor beside me. Shooting a murderous look at Anakin over my shoulder, which he returns with a cocky smile, I pick up the holobook and scroll through it. Everything inside it is about planets, science, astronomy and math. I don't see why I would need to know about maths to do this, but it is at the back of the book so I don't have to go through it to get to the part about planets and such. At the front of the book are all the things listed for basic life forms to exist, which I could have used 2 hours ago when I was first given this abomination. Literally everything is listed for any sort of life to take place, though in this case I'm guessing it's bacteria, and the first thing I notice makes me curse myself. Opening up a tab filled with the options for substances and elements, I drag and drop some oxygen onto the planet, and the sound of gas filling a room is made only the gas is going into the planet. The ozone layer prevents any of it from escaping, which I find confusing, and I watch the statistics of what is currently going on with what I am guessing is a toy planet, and I frown when the oxygen goes up to 100% and another element appears underneath it. I watch in astonishment as another element appears also. How in the force did carbon and hydrogen get onto the planet? Narrowing my eyes, I draw out an options tab again, and monitor the different compounds that can be made. I have no idea what any of these letters and numbers mean apart from a few that I recognize were in the equation for a smoke bomb that Anakin had written out. With a resigning sigh, I turn back to the holobook and turn to the page labeled compounds and scan through them until I find the one I am looking for. Water. Thankfully, it needs 2 hydrogen molecules and 1 oxygen molecule. I frown thinking that the way the book is written may not be exactly right, but think nothing of it, as I turn back to the options tab and drag and drop the equation for water onto the planet. Surprisingly, the sound of a tap is made, and from the equator of the planet a virtual version of water is made. My jaw drops as it spreads out across the planet and the sound of the water putting out the fires and cooling down the molten rock on the planet is made. Before long the entire planet is blue, and I cock my head to the side, unsure of what to do next. It feels so strange in my hand and, of its own accord, floats out of my palm to be just in front of me. Is that supposed to happen? I ask Anakin, my eyes never leaving the blue orb in front of me. Yes, Anakin replies, looking over the top of his datapad. You just have to wait until the water goes down and reveals the land for things to grow on. But how much land will there be? What if it's just a water planet? I question. You just have to monitor the changes, he advises, referring to the statistics that are shown via hologram. The options should show the different things that you can put on the planet once the land has grown, but it does take time as with any normal planet. But it isn't a normal planet, it's a miniature version with its own rules and laws. I point out. Exactly, except you are acting as the Force. Anakin reminds me. Now, since that's going to take a few hours at least to cool and such, any ideas on what you want to learn next? You mean besides learning how to maintain a planet and hot wiring stuff? I asked sarcastically. What about something that will help me win, maybe? The look he gives me is a calculating one, like he's trying to figure something out, and I match it with a stare of my own. Before long, he appears to have decided on something and puts his datapad down. Before going into the same small room where he got the holobook about fixing things from yesterday. I look back at the planet floating in front of me and notice the way that it is spinning around slowly and wonder how long it will take before any land shows. When Anakin comes back into the room, he has a hologram projector in his hand. I cannot help but try to guess what it is going to show. What is that? I question. A holographic map of the area that your competition will be held in, Anakin informs me, placing it down on the coffee table and activating it. A 3D map of a forest area, clearing and lake shows up with moving things on it that I frown at. What are those? I ask, pointing to what looks like 10-foot-high metal giants. They're not what I think they are they? Giants, Anakin nods. That's what they are. Giants, I exclaim. But my class is a class of younglings. How are we supposed to go up against giants? It's not just giants, Ahsoka. It's giant scorpions, magma figures, Nexus and Ackley. Those are the only things in the area that will want to harm you. The others are just animals that are in the area. It shouldn't take long for your classmates to get knocked out of the competition. All you have to do is stay alive. How am I supposed to stay alive against those? My hopes of winning the competition are quickly fading. Why is this even legal? The council shouldn't be allowing this. Relax, Ahsoka. It's nothing more dangerous than any separatist battle. Really? It sure looks like it is to me. I grumble. When am I ever going to have to stay alive against things as dangerous as these? Just focus on it, okay? Anakin stops my protests and nervous speech. There are 2 training sabers with a high enough power level to stun any of the creatures with one hit. Okay, but how am I going to find one? I asked. There's one here, in the center of the forest. Anakin points to a specific location and it is highlighted in green. It's attached to the top of the oak tree. How will I know which one is the oak tree? I don't know the difference between any trees. I'll teach you, Anakin says. Anyway, the second one is hidden here. He points to the lake, and it is highlighted in green also. At the bottom of the lake. You have to be a good swimmer to get it, though. Or try to complete the puzzle to get the platform to lift up. Puzzle? There are loads of puzzles around the area, Anakin continues. You'll need to complete a certain one to unlock the compartment which holds the holoflag. They're on this datapad. He uses the Force to float a datapad from another room into his hand and hands it to me. I look at the first puzzle and frown. It makes no sense whatsoever. You should probably practice doing those whenever you get the chance. What does this mean? I ask in confusion. This man is a mystery to me in my world, but this man's father is my father's son. What? Think about it and look at the answers. Anakin suggests. I look at each of the answers in turn and slowly say, he is my son. Anakin nods. Yep. Just click the correct answer and it will move to the next puzzle. There are about 30 of them in total, probably a little more. I look down at the next puzzle and frown again. These things don't make any sense to me. Anyway, to win you have to stay alive or not get stunned. Even though death is possible, you need to know how to defeat any of these creatures without a weapon. I know you might be able to get a training saber, but you should still know how to do it. I nod slowly, having the strangest feeling that there's something I should know. What's the catch? Once again I am exhausted because of the things that Anakin is teaching me. This time I am lying on the floor with my head resting on a cushion, and about 1,000,000 datapads and holobooks are around me. Why? I just learned all the 100 points on an Ackley's body that can either stun or kill it, and had to repeat them all 10 times to Anakin. Believe me, it wasn't pretty. I had to recite the 26 ways of downing magma figures, the point on a giant's body that will knock it unconscious, learn the names of all the trees and leaves and their uses, make a trap for a giant scorpion, and take a test on all of those things until I got it 100% right. Now all of the things are just going round and around in my head, and I have been at this for 11.5 hours, plus the time that I was eating at dinner that Anakin said I had to eat. Apparently, Force users are supposed to eat meals with a high level of calcium to maintain the midi-chlorian count in the bloodstream and bones. Now I know what Barris was talking about, but instead of only being allowed to eat certain foods, I'm supposed to eat anything with a high level of calcium, basically every type of food in the temple, because younglings need to have strong bodies. On the bright side, the worst is over because Anakin used the Force to make sure I would never forget the things that I learned, until they came to me as quickly as my name, though I do not see how that is necessarily a good thing. According to Anakin, I have learned everything that I was supposed to, and now all that I can do is practice with the training saber, which is what the training droid in the corner of the next room is for, and learn a few other things about survival. I'm not overly smart or anything, Force knows that's true, but now I can tell anyone how to defeat an Ackley or something else. I'm far too tired to even think of the things I can do, and I just thank the fact that now I'm just practicing with a saber and not reciting things. I don't like sitting still, it makes me restless and unbelievably cranky. Don't fall asleep now, Snips. Anakin chuckles. It's 9:30. Aren't you supposed to be back in your room by 11? I sigh and open my eyes. I was literally on the edge of sleep when he started speaking. If you hadn't tired me out with those pointless facts, then I wouldn't have to worry about when I get back to my room. I say in a tired voice. He smirks. Come on. He crouches down and pulls me to my feet. I just don't want you to die, okay? Now, don't forget your datapad or planet tomorrow. I'll let you sit around and do whatever you want. Even if that involves me teaching you how to make light. I snapped my head up to meet his gaze. I was a little distracted by something on the coffee table. Make light? I ask. I'm Mark's Rising. Are you serious? Of course I am, Anakin smiles. Now go on. If you fall asleep tomorrow, I can't guarantee I'll wake you up in a simple way. Good night. Good night, Anakin. I stifle a yawn behind my hand and depart the room. Careful to not fall asleep, I go about my usual business of taking off the vent cover, climbing inside, replacing it, and making my way down the shaft without fault. The twins are nowhere in sight, and I am thankful for that fact, and it takes me about half the usual time to get to the next vent cover, climb out of the vent and to walk from the deserted corridor into an inhabited one. There are barely any younglings about, and I know that the GD around me can sense how tired I am, because they give me sympathetic looks if they aren't engaged in conversation. I am fine as I walk down the corridors and ponder my decisions for what I should do now when Pedro and the twins walk into view. Groaning, I resign myself to the conversation that is definitely about to take place. They woke up too. Me, and I know that it is obvious how tired I am. They can sense it too, and I am grateful for the fact that these GD tunics have large pockets. My datapad is in one pocket and my planet is in another. Hopefully the water will have gone down by now. Hey Ahsoka. Kay greets. You look really tired. I am, I reply. For the past 11 hours I have been reciting things and staring at datapads. Thank force that's over. The twins smirk. Think you can stay awake long enough for dinner? Why not? I ask, hiding a yawn behind my hand. I could use another dinner. Don't tell me your mentor gives you dinner too, Jay says, eyes whitening. Dinner, lunch, snacks, whatever you want. I shrug my shoulders. Let's get something to eat. The twins exchange a look and I notice that Pedro is reciting things under his breath, things that sound like the different ways to stun an Acklay, and I repress a groan. If anyone so much as mentions any of the creatures involved in this competition, I am going to die. Everything about this competition seems to be designed to either kill or stun the competitors. As we pass through the corridors on our way to the mess hall, I notice that every GD who isn't a youngling and most of the Padawans have grim expressions on their faces. I don't know why, and frankly, I don't want to know. The war between the Republic and the Separatists is the reason for any of the bad feelings that people have, and the dark side is stronger than it has ever been. Why would I want to know? What terrible thing has happened? Hey, what's that? Kay questions, pointing to my pocket. I reach inside and pull out the miniature planet that Anakin gave me. This is just a simulation of what it's like to look after a planet, I say casually. You decide on what to add to it to create life. Watch. I wave my hand in front of it, and the options tabs and statistics appear. Let me guess, your mentor gave it to you? Pedro asks, stopping his muttering to look at it. Yeah, I resist the urge to ask how he knows even though it is obvious. I wave my hand in front of the planet again, and the holograms disappear before I put it back in my pocket. How's your mentor been? I doubt he's as ruthless as mine. I add bitterly. Yours doesn't seem ruthless if he gave you that, Pedro comments. And my mentor has been telling me to focus on getting rid of the Acklays. There's a small spot under its 113th scale. That, if hit, will kill it instantly. You just have to punch the scale and it will be stunned, I know. I cut in. Actually, it's the 113th, 27th, 4th and 70th scales that when hit can stun it instantly. Then there are the spots on its neck and head. And, I pause and sigh. This is what I've been doing for the past 11 hours. Now I can't forget any of them. They don't seem to be interested in my comments since their jaws have dropped, and they're giving me that awe stare that many younglings seem to be giving me, so I am happy when we enter the mess hall. And their attentions are diverted. Without bothering to see if they are following me, I go to the counter and get my dinner before returning and sitting at one of the free tables. A minute later, after I have started eating, they come to sit with me, and it takes a grand total of 2 seconds for them to start asking questions. So, how much did you get taught? Pedro asks, beginning to eat his meal. Everything you can think of to do with the competition, I say miserably. You name it, I've learned it. If anyone says that they can learn so much in so little time, they have no idea. Kay smirks. We'll take your word for it, he comments. Before anyone else can speak, the door to the mess hall opens violently, and we all turn around to see what is going on. A very excited-looking youngling is stood there, and I cannot help but roll my eyes. It doesn't take a genius to know that something has happened that everyone needs to know about. Hey, guess what? He says loudly. There's an ock dog in the hangar. It escaped from a nearby shipment. The sound of chairs scraping and excited chattering is all I need to hear to know that it is time to shrink into my chair, and the moment I look up and around again, there is hardly anyone left in the room. Sighing, I take one last mouthful of food before standing and walking out of the door. I don't see how a creature is exciting enough for everyone to want to go and see it when the GD Masters will prevent them from going anywhere near it and probably send everyone to their rooms. I am practically sleepwalking by the time I return to my room, and I place my datapad and plan it on my bedside table before walking into the fresher and changing into my sleepwear. My eyes are half closed as I climb into bed and fall asleep, knowing that if I have another day like this one it will damn near kill me.